Hey there, YouTube. Welcome to the Stratosphere Studio. Let's grab our friends over on Twitch. Hello, Twitcheroos. Welcome to the Stratosphere Studio. It's Monday night, the 20th of October, 2025. Starting to feel like 2025. Croatia checking in. That idiot always sticks his head in at the worst time. Yeah, I just continue to be amazed at this technology, and I told Natasha a couple nights ago. I said I'm glad I lived long enough to not only see it but to use it. So got a couple little things to show you a little later on, and had some more thoughts about this. So we talk about the colonies for a little bit, and we'll do the wind up, go to the questions. I'm doing some outside work where all I'm doing is AI video, which is turning into something pretty lucrative. And it doesn't take a lot of time, and I might put myself up on Fiverr for that. Getting the hang of it. It's still a little frustrating for things that we can't do, but most of the things that we couldn't do before we can do now, and we'll be able to do soon. So did a couple of tests. If you were here on Thursday, oh, for God's sake. Check, check. You're good on, okay, we're good on YouTube. Can you hear me now? Yep, sure. No reason why you shouldn't. It was working on YouTube, and I didn't change anything, so I'm just really, really tired of this. Anyway, welcome. It's the 20th of October 2025. I was just talking about how miraculous this technology is. We've got some things to show you. Once again, we're going to have to show you this stuff only on the Twitch stream. For those of you who are watching on YouTube, I'll drop a link in a minute or two. But I just can't run this stuff on YouTube because of already got a copyright strike on the Bill Whittle channel, and I can't risk getting another one. No, I did not. Remember to turn off the ads on YouTube, because I shouldn't have to keep turning off the ads on YouTube. I think turning off the ads on YouTube one time would be enough. But I'll do it now. Thanks for reminding me. There we go. Yep, thanks for the reminder. Again, I don't know why I have to do that every time, but there you go. So here we are. So I'll send you guys over on YouTube a link to the Twitch stream, and if you can switch over, I can show you there. If not, we'll be out for probably 7-8 minutes, something like that. So yeah, I think I'll probably just run the clips, and then we'll talk about it. I have some thoughts, more thoughts about the colonies, and I'm just really going. I'm just going to go hard for this. I was talking with my friend Phelim McAleer. He and his wife Ann McInnery made a movie called Gosnell several years ago about the abortionist who ran this nightmare clinic in Philadelphia, I want to say it was. And oh, thank you, effing geek. And so they did it's about 10 years ago, they did a crowd funding thing, and they raised $2.4 million. Now that's a high intensity audience. It's a hot issue for people. But I did spend some time talking with him about it and learned some interesting things. just sort of general things about it. A couple things that I thought were interesting, and most of you probably know a lot of this, but one of them was that he said, one of the most important things is that nothing succeeds like success, Bill. So if people don't think it's going to fly, they're not going to pony up their $10 or their $100 or whatever the case may be. So it's got to look like it's working pretty much all the time. And he said it's pretty much a 6-week job, and it's a full-time job for 6 weeks, and you can't ever let up during that 6 weeks. You got to do a lot of preparatory work prior to that, and that all seemed like commonsensical stuff that I'd already heard about. But one of the things he said, for example, was if your hard open is going to be on a Monday, you should do like a soft opening on like a Thursday, so that when people first arrive at the big reveal, there's already money in the bank. They go, wow, the guy's just opened for a couple hours and he's already raised $35,000, that kind of thing. And had some other ideas about, about all this stuff. But I think the most realistic thing to do in terms of the money raised is I'm hoping to go out and get some private investment money to allow me to do the sizzle reel for the colonies, and then that person would get that back out of the raise if we achieve the raise. We both kind of agreed that there's two ways to do this. One of them is if you don't make the raise, then you return the money, and the other way is you get to keep whatever you raised. And we both agreed that we like option A better. It's got a much more honest feel to it, So we will. I got some ideas about doing that. Getting the means to do just really not just this is a real, but money for marketing and advertising. I could call in, quick cameos on all of my celebrity friends. That goes a long way. Goes a long way towards credibility and feeling of professionalism and success. See if I can get Gary and John and James Woods and others to say, hey, this guy really he's going to do it and he's great and I can't wait to be a part of it. So that whole thing. So that all that stuff will help, and I think I've got a good shot of doing it. So I was trying to figure out what is the actual raise, and I think the most reasonable thing to do would be to try to raise the money for the pilot episode. And I'm thinking we're probably in the neighborhood of like, I don't know, $600,000-700,000, something like that, to be sure you got there. That would be pretty much an hour. Be about 58 minutes. Be episode 1, season 1, and that would set up the 5 timelines. Give us a look at everything. I think it's an achievable goal. I think it's an achievable amount of money around in there. And each, this first episode would end with, I don't want to say cliffhangers exactly, but make you hungry to see episode 2. So I think if you could deliver a good pilot episode, then you could do a second crowdsource thing and try to raise, $5 million or something for the next 8 episodes, and just go the way of just follow in the footsteps of The Chosen. You get enough to get it started, and then you deliver on the first episode. You ask for a season. When you deliver on the first season, then and people like the first season, then the second season, for the case of The Chosen, I think it was $6 million for the first season, $20 million for the second, and they sold out in 3 days, is what I remember hearing. Yes, James Woods is not a close friend of mine, but a fan, and I'm sure I can get his endorsement. I'm quite sure I can get him to play a role. I'm pretty sure I can get anybody to play a role, because the great thing about this about this AI stuff is you do the performance into your iPhone. They just do it into your iPhone, and it just maps it onto the characters. So I'm feeling pretty good about it, and I've been talking about doing this for well here for 10 years, my entire life since I was 16 when I lost the Air Force Academy. I started going out and making movies, and everything since then, the limo driving and even the punditry and all the rest of it, was kind of my second choice. This is my first best destiny, and up until you know, I started getting involved with CGI again back, what was it, 4 years, 5 years ago, when it started to look like it might get there, and now I just don't believe it'll ever get there. Um, and But AI, these AI shots, I'm going to run the reel I ran Thursday night. I made some changes and improved it a little bit and cleaned it up a little bit. Hey, a first time chat from a little Zach. Hey, little Zach, good to see you. Um, I think any one of the shots that you're going to see would have been days to do, and some of them, like the big exteriors where there's rovers and snow and people in the background and steam venting, those are weeks to get those shots, you know. And for me, it's just like you just hit the, what was that game that had the working in AI is exactly what was that game that had, was it the Game of Life maybe, that had the dice inside a little clear dome and you'd pop it and they'd just jump around and then you wouldn't have to lose the dice. Was that, is that the Game of Life? You know what I'm talking about. That's what AI is. You give it a prompt you like, and you dial it in, trouble, and you just pop it, and it's like it randomly does it, pop it, pop it, pop it, pop it. I like that one, and then you render it, and it's like same thing, pop it, pop it, pop it. I like that animation, and so anyway, if you didn't see it before on Thursday, I've made some changes to make it a little bit clearer. It's more of a it's certainly not final sizzle reel stuff, although I'm sure a lot of these shots will make it into the final sizzle reel because um, I don't want to do them again. Um, and Anyway, so I got a couple little things to show you. So why don't we all jump over to Twitch? Sorry about this, YouTube. I've got extremely copyrighted music because it's the mood I'm really looking for. I tried to swap out the music, try to find something that would be as good. I haven't been able to do that yet. As soon as I can find something that is non-royalty, I won't have to shift everybody over. But for now, yeah, F and Geek says, honestly thinks more about the Ice Planet is that it has kids. Well, I've added extra kids to this since you've seen it last. And so I haven't tried using Suno Marusha, but Natasha uses it all the time. And she does great stuff. So here you go, YouTube. If you can head over to this link here, you're good to go. Whittleton 2975 says, James Wood did Hades as a futuristic John Paul Jones. You'll be able to print money faster than the Federal Reserve. That is the funniest Disney villain of all time. I cry every time I see. What are those? I have not seen it. Is that the is that from Hercules? I have to. I haven't checked it out, but I got a good feeling about it. So anyway, so here's what's going to happen, YouTube. Yeah, I'm gonna have to black out the or go to the title card on YouTube for about 7 or 8 minutes, and if you can make it over to Twitch, that'd be great. And then we will just come back, and as soon as the copyrighted stuff is gone, I'll show you the. I'll come back and we'll pick up the stream and the conversation and the questions. Okay, I had some thoughts on this after the fact, but I should probably show it to you first. So let's see here. First things first. Okay, YouTube. We'll be back in about 7 or 8 minutes, and I'll try to keep posting that link in there so you guys can figure out where we've gone. But until then, here we go, and we're gonna switch to the title card now. Hey, we're back, YouTube. Hey, we're back, Twitch. Thanks very much. Um, yeah, that was really really fun to do. Um, Really really fun to do. And if you missed it, I'm sorry. We just did a look at the something called Two Futures. It's on the Stratosphere Studios channel. I can risk it on Stratosphere Studios. As many people were pointing out, hard times make good men make good times. You know the thing. Good times make weak men make hard times make good men make good times, whatever the hell. Get the idea. Um, yeah, I'm gonna look at Suno and see if I can get a sound alike or something. Um, anyway, the there's a lot there, and one of the things that I was really thinking about was not just the sense of like the humanity, but one of the things is a sense of belonging that's I think is really missing in our culture, you know. And I think young people especially are really feeling it. That there's very little sense of belonging to something, and that's what I like. And and I mentioned this before. Once I saw the first cut of this, and I put all these things together, and I played them back to back, I thought, you know what, it is mostly about the folks on Niflheim, which is Nordic for frozen land, and they're going to call it Sniffleheim because they always have colds all the time. But the it just I just realized what it was about that segment on the colony, and it's so aggressively heterosexual, you know. It's just so heterosexual. It's just men and women, and they're chatting each other up, and they're into each other, and they're you know, flirting with each other, and they've got kids, and they've got families, and they got all of this stuff, and everybody in the Sky City is just so vain and just alone, and they're smiling, and they're, yes, exactly. Dave Olson over on YouTube says all the beautiful on Earth look lonely as hell. They are. They really are. They really are lonely people. And I'm not going to say nobody is happy there. I mean, the founders are there, but it's celebrity and vanity and narcissism and all the rest of that stuff. I think people look at that and they'd say, I would like to go live on that colony. I know it looks cold and miserable. That's why they're so friendly with each other. I remember when I was visiting Chicago once, probably when I was about 27 or something. Went up there with a friend, and she and I were walking around the city, and it was so bloody cold. I mean, it just hurt cold, and it was early in the evening, and we were walking around. It seemed like everything was closed. We found this one bar open. We went in there, and everybody just like welcomed us like we just come in from a hike across Antarctica that they had been searching for us for weeks, and we just managed to stumble back into the base, and it's like, yeah, it's just, and there's no devices, and nobody's watching TV, and nobody's everybody's connected. Uh, Dave's Real Area 51 says, but shiny sky cities are cool. I want shiny sky cities, and you shall have them. But one of the things about the shiny sky cities is you can't. I've I've had the great fortune to go to a number of like upscale Hollywood events, and been to the nicest places in Los Angeles, and they're gorgeous, and they're gorgeous people, and I had a wonderful time and all of that stuff, but they're not rowdy, and it's just because it's not appropriate. So there you go. Now, one of the things I mentioned, who works as a window washer? Well, I'm sure those windows are electrically charged to repel water. But in any event, it would be robots or something. But I was talking last time about, hey, maybe just as was clear to mention that that I was just playing with this idea. I hadn't really thought it through. But what if everybody on Earth was rich and anybody could do whatever they want to? And I decided, no, I don't. I don't think I want to go that way. I've got a number of reasons why I don't want to go that way. But here's my number one objective. Okay, and that is, I absolutely 100% am absolutely not going to portray a world where the rich people are the beautiful ones and they're all supported by the toil of the working classes. I'm just not going there, man. It's just plain communism. That I thought I couldn't watch Elysium, and I love science fiction. I just couldn't watch it because it was so heavily socialist. All the rich people don't even live on Earth anymore, but the poor people have to work and die, and in order to keep these fabulous rich people, in their thing. So I just decided I'm just not going to do that. But what I am going to do is I am going to have an elitist class, and here's where we get to stick the ship in the left, And when they're at these parties, and they'll be being introduced to each other, somebody will introduce a new pair, and it would feel exactly like this is the Duke of Sussex, and this is the Earl of Essex, and but no, when they're being introduced up there, they'll say this is Jonathan Ryder, and he is the deputy chief administrator for water and power in the New York area district, something like that. And I'll give them a lot of thought, but every single one of them are going to be hereditary bureaucrats. Hereditary bureaucrats. That's what they are. So it's like, no, this is the opposite of your communism. This is the these are the apparatchiks. These are the nomenclatura, that's what they call them. People wants to know, are they going to have trains that go through buildings? Hell yes, they're going to have trains that go through buildings. What's the point of doing science fiction if you don't have trains going through buildings? My dad took us up to Disney World just before it opened to the public in 1972, and we stayed at the Contemporary Hotel, and I just lost my mind. So there's going to be different, each colony is going to be different. The further away you get from Earth, the less bureaucratic it's going to be. But that's got to be it. There's going to be a break from this Earth thing. So yeah, it's just overregulated. Earth is overregulating everything. It's overtaxing everything. It's doing all of those things. And finally, these people are saying we're tired of working our butts off to pay space taxes. There you go. What if you have rich people on the colonies who fled the Mandamis of Sky City? Yes, they are going to be a few of those people who fled the Sky Cities. I actually toyed with the idea of having Lisa be a music instructor from a rich family. It's got something there. So this is where Gavin Newsom and Nancy Pelosi, and they're all hereditary diplomats. Yeah, he's the this is the deputy director of water and power for the Charleston area, and somebody said, I knew your father. I knew your father. Yes, my dad was the chief administrator of food distribution for the entire Eastern Seaboard. Oh, I see. Yeah. So it's got to be carefully written. You can't just throw those things around. They got to make sense. But in any event, I think it's. I just think it's really, really cool. So they are going to get away from, and social credit scores are going to be everything. Everything. It's everybody's going to be, to the degree that you see a party like that one, everybody will be agreeing on everything. Everybody will agree with the government position on everything, and there's not going to be any discussion about it, and they'll all be talking about how we have to do this for the benefit of all those poor working people out there. But it's basically going to be Obama's 87th term is what it's going to be. So that's pretty much it. I'm going to start doing some of the other timelines now because I've been spending so much time on this. The first scene where you see Jake, he's coming back from work and he's in a 7-Eleven kind of thing, and he wants to buy something or other, space beer probably, and they won't let him buy it because he doesn't have the social credit to buy some luxury or something that he wants, which pisses him off enormously, and he's railing against it, you know, and the cashier is warning him, you know, your score's going to get worse, you know. I mean, and so he says, you know, is there anything I can do, you know, to raise my social credit so I can get this, you know, bottle of scotch or whatever? Hey there, go get him, coach. And the guy says, well, you can go vote. And there's like a voting machine in the corner of the 7-Eleven. And you put some money in there and you determine how many times you want to vote. If you vote 15 times for the right guy, your social credit score will go up. So that's what he does. He just keeps voting until his credit score goes ding, and then he goes storming out of there, and he's like, I'm getting out of this place. I put Lisa in the Cyber City was much too nice. The back alleys of the Cyber City is where the daughter Grace, or Claire rather, you know, is nearly attacked, and that's the final straw for Dad. He's taking the family off world, and you know, there you go. Eric says, here's an idea, Bill. Have the Jefferson character of the colonies be one of these upper-class folks fleeing the bureaucracy. And here's the thought, make the character one of those women in that reel, forcing a smile, very aware of how fake it all is. Yeah. Yeah, Queeble, can you pay a guy in a back alley to increase the credit score? I'm sure you can. I'm sure you can. I'm sure there are many administrators who would increase your credit score for a small gratuity. Dave's Real Air 51 says, does the beautiful, slick, futuristic city have to be so bad, or is that a choice that the society makes? Maybe there are luxurious places that take a different course. No, when you get to the colonies are going to be very, very clean cities. They're going to be really, really beautiful and modern and all of that stuff. These cities on Earth, which you don't really see, are what you don't see on Earth. They're all the abandoned arcologies. Population just plummeted, and all of these enormous arcology cities that were there 100 years ago have just completely been abandoned, and that's the kind of side quest that Jake goes on the first episode to get enough money to move off world. He's going to go out to the Riverside Arcology. He's going to go find some missing parts in exchange for a big bonus, and people live out there, and they won't send a security team with him. It's up to him to go, so he just pretty much goes out there, maybe with a friend, and he explores this absolutely abandoned. Well, there's lots of people living in the shadows, but basically an abandoned automatic factory, and he finds these missing parts, and that saves the company that he works for a bunch of money. So he gets a real fat bonus, and he uses that bonus to get the hell out of there. And so that storyline is pretty well worked out. I had a bit of an epiphany as well, and that is that I'm going to go a lot more in terms of the spaceships looking like spaceships, spinning centrifuges and fuel tanks and all that stuff. I'm going to have a couple of things that look kind of more like, you know, modern spaceships that have that magnetic gravity, but most of them are going to be really going to look like real spaceships, like Discovery and the Leonov and all that stuff. By the way, I don't know if I've talked about this before, but you know, you'll often see I know they for certain did this in Babylon 5. Where they have one spinning centrifuge. The ship continues on and one centrifuge is spinning, and it's impossible. In order to have that, you need a frictionless bearing. The friction of the rotation will pull the body of the ship around. you can have counter-rotating anythings. But yeah, so I've got this thing all pretty much planned out. I need to write the script, and I mean, I've got it in my head. I know these 5 storylines, and it's just going to be great. The merchant, free trader storyline gets to show you the jump gates in action. By the way, I mentioned that you had to send out a ship. Just go get him, Coach. Just said, is Magic Mountain closing permanently in Santa Clarita? I hadn't heard. I'm not going to use ChatGPT. I appreciate it, Quibo. I'm not using any AI for the writing at all. It's just I just I can smell AI writing, and I can smell AI songs, not necessarily music, but songs. But in any event, so I've got to get these other storylines chalked out and get some video on that. So I've got more than enough of the Homesteader stuff to hold me. I've got Habs. I've got I've got that really nailed. So it's Got 'em Coach, not Get 'em Coach. Got 'em Coach. Sorry, I only glance over there, and it's hard for me to see sometimes. So yeah, there's going to be all kinds of weird things, and I showed you some of the pictures of those intentionally genetically mutated humans, and so I'm just pulling stuff together, and I'm having a lot of fun doing it. I can't believe how much humanity those colony videos showed. Just the human interactions. My favorite one is the 2 couples that are looking out there, and then they look at each other and they just kind of hold that moment. It's just, yeah, fantastic. Yes, and no single biome planets. Effin Geek. AZ says no single, but no winter, frozen planet, no desert planet. Although the place where they're actually in, Niflheim, or Sniffelheim, is the one with the really eccentric orbit where it spends most of its time out there and gets very, very cold, and then it comes in, the whole planet heats up, and then all the ice melts, and they have a hot summer, and then it's too hot to go outside, then it's just cool. But I think, I won't say completely, I know there's going to be a water world that's going to be largely a single biome, but that makes sense. No Coruscant exactly, it's just dumb. And that's the second planet that they did in Star Citizen. They have this planet that's nothing but 100% construction over the entire surface of the planet, and they've got no people in it. It's bizarre. Well, Star Citizen they finally opened up their second solar system, and I think they're working on the third one. So there you go. Am I getting them wrong? Coruscant. Which one is? Which one's the home planet of the Empire that's just nothing but buildings? Bespin is the Cloud City. So anyway, no, we're not gonna be doing. It's not going to be anything like Star Wars, and it's not going to be much like Star Trek either. It's going to be unique unto itself, and it's going to have a lot of humanity in it. And I'll tell you one show that, strangely enough, I'm using as a template or a target, and that is Deadwood. And the thing that's well, I just love Deadwood. I love it. But the thing that is really interesting about Deadwood, just as in terms of execution of the TV show, is that everybody in Deadwood, all of the background people, are doing something, and they're doing something real. When they go walking down the streets of Deadwood, everybody there is doing something real. They're either swatting carpets with a wicker, what would you call it? So wicker stick to beat the dust out of them, or there are people who are, slopping hogs, or there's somebody selling cigars or something. But the whole town is alive. The whole town of Deadwood is alive all the time, and it's not just Carpet Peter, thanks, and it's not just background extras walking from one place to another. Everybody knows what they're doing. Everybody's doing something authentic. It feels so dynamic that I love that. I love that show. I love it. I need to watch it again. It's been a long time. And I think Al Swearengen's one of the greatest TV characters ever written. I just love the guy. I'll miss him. Anyway, so that's that. I think it'll probably do it for now. I'm looking forward to getting on all this other stuff, plus all the other stuff that I have to be doing all that. Sure enough, you sockdologizing old man trap. Yeah, that's a famous line from My American Cousin. Or is it Our American Cousins? I think it's My American Cousin. Waterworlds are kind of single biome. Yes, but they have different kind of seas. Exactly. You have Our American Cousin. Chase Smith, I like the way you think. On the elliptically orbiting planet, will the colonists be migratory between the equator and the poles? Yes, that's exactly what will happen. They're mostly spread out along the equator, but during the absolute, it's only a couple months where it becomes unbearably hot, and everybody gets in their rovers. They lock down their main houses, and they just retreat to the poles because the whole planet floods, and the habs have to be waterproof because they're going underwater. It's just really cool. And then you've got life forms. The planet in winter seems completely dead, but then when it starts to warm up, all of these life forms appear and just blossom because they have very little time. So I think it's something like 2 to 3 years of freezing cold, and then a couple of months of being, I don't know, 160 degrees outside, something like that, 170. Amarusha Dark says, would you consider Titan, Mars, and Venus to be multi-biome? No, and most of the planets in the colonies are not Earth-like enough. This is one of the reasons why our family decided to move to this place. Was they decided they didn't want a vacuum world. They didn't want a place that would kill you dead if you went outside without a suit. You'll die out there without a suit, but it won't kill you dead. And clearly this party is happening just as the planet is either just starting to melt or on its way out, or back out. So main family starts in a rover for the first episode, for the first season, probably. Certainly the first couple of episodes, 3, 4, 5 episodes. The homesteader family has to live in a rover, which makes the daughter absolutely insane. They had the money to buy a little hab, but when they get to the rover is in such terrible shape compared to what they thought they were buying that they have to spend the money that they were going to spend on the hab to get the rover going. He can't work, he can't move, so they have to live in this rover for a couple months or half a year, and so on. I'll tell you, it was one thing about terraforming. Marisha asked, but what's the thing about terraforming? And there's one thing that people don't realize about terraforming, and that's this. People talk about building up the atmosphere of Mars, and it's going to take a long, long time. And Mars doesn't have a magnetic field, so the atmosphere gets lost back in space. Plus, it's also you got quarter of the gravity of Earth, so they can't hold as much atmosphere. But here's what's interesting about terraforming planets, and especially something like Mars. If you crash an asteroid into Mars, a big one, and you make a gigantic crater, the atmospheric pressure at the bottom of that crater could easily be 1 atmosphere. It'd be all carbon dioxide, but it would be 1 atmosphere, because you create one area on the planet that is so far below sea level that essentially all the atmosphere rushes into this hole and stays there, into the bowl. So you can get Mars's atmosphere up to it's a little tickle cough. You get Mars's atmosphere up to 1 atmosphere, and just do that. Marisha says, in 250 years, could we jumpstart a planet's magnetic field or otherwise make an artificial one? I don't know about. Yeah, you couldn't jumpstart it because it doesn't have a metal core. Uh, how deep a crater do you need? I don't think it's terribly deep. I think it's like half a mile or something. So that'd be interesting. Where you'd have a planet with just a couple of habitable, areas. Um, so I got all this stuff kind of worked out or in the process of working out. You can put orbiting um, reflectors up there to reflect sunlight. A bunch of mirrors up in space you could do. That would help if they were big enough. And there's no reason why you couldn't build mirrors that were just hundreds of miles across. Um, so the closer here's how it works. The closer you are to Earth, the higher the technological level is. And as you get further and further out, it gets rougher and rougher. And our family decided to go not to an explorer planet, but to a pioneer planet. So obviously, there's places where you got planets with a couple hundred people on it, and the one that they're going to will be a planet that has probably tens of thousands of people on it, but not much more than that. That's a lot of people to spread out over an entire planet. So. No, they're not all on 1G planets. We're gonna play this realistically too, and this is something I was. It's not diminishing tech, Roadrunner. It's not that the tech is. It's just that it takes a while for the tech to get there because you got to set up this Stargate stuff on the other side. You have to get a gate there slower than light. You got to have two-way connection, and so it's just it's not like it's lower tech. It's just that there's not as much high tech. It's a quantity, not a quality issue. Um, so and one of the kind of the tragedies about this story is that this family's going to pick a spot that they like, and they're just going to start with their rover there, and then they get one hab so they can at least have a little like a cabin, and over time this guy's business successes increases. Yeah, I'll get to that in a second, Road Rider. And and he's doing better and better, and he's starting to hire some people, and they're going out, and so by the time we get to season 2 or 3, Jake is a rich guy, and he's got a going concern. So he's building up his house and getting it nicer, and he's got people working for him. And comes a time when somebody settles and puts in a house within visual range of where he lives, so that you can just look out the window and see it. It's still a couple miles out, but by their standards, it's close. Yeah, he's a hydrologist, hydrological engineer. And so finally, towards the end of this thing, when they're 10, 15, 20 years older, they are thinking about leaving because this little cove that they picked that was out in the middle of nowhere, now there's like 6 families living there, or 7, and it's like it's getting a little crowded here, man. So everybody, the nice thing about it is you get to dial your own. This is kind of the utopian aspect of the colonies, is every single person gets to dial the level of luxury that they want. If you want to stay at home on Earth, you can do that. If you want to go out to the hard frontier, you can do that. And if you want to explore, you can do that. If you want to make money on a vacuum world and you're 22 years old and you want to make, I knew a couple of engineers who went to Saudi Arabia. They were oil engineers, and they just hated it. And they said, we're going for 3 years. They're paying us 5 times what we make at home. We're just going to eat the 3 years. We're not going to have fun. There's no fun to have. We're just going to work. We're going to work on our days off. We're going to work on our holidays. We're just going to work and work and work and work and work for 3 years. And when we get back, we'll have enough money that we would have made in 15, 20 years otherwise. And then we're going to set up our lives. So I haven't thought about the cybernetic bodies, Marusha. It's entirely possible. It's entirely possible, and you gotta. I think I prefer the genetic. I think the people in the video that we saw, I don't think they're cybernetic bodies. I think they're just genetically perfect, and they live a long, long time. um, and I think there will be like cities or planets where this like cybernetics may have been banned or something. So somebody will go off and start their own planet where they can do all the cybernetics they want to. That's the great thing about it. You can just plain go to Cyber Planet, or you can go to Cyber City or whatever. Um, there you go. I'm not going to ruin Lisa for anybody. No, Lisa's a favorite for sure. Um, so they just I don't know. They may just. Why would they ban them if it's run by leftists? Well, that's what leftists do, Marusha. They ban people. People wants to know if I'm going to off Will. I am. I'll probably end up flipping a coin over that. But people are already invested in the story. I mean, banning technology is not people. They'll ban anything they want to. That's what they do. If they're not using it, then they ban it as they please. But there's definitely going to be a subset or a subculture of humanity that's doing the whole transhuman augmented thing. There's going to be a subset of humanity that does the genetic modification thing. Effing Geek says, no doubt there'd be pilgrimage to Earth. Yeah, they can come by their billions and they can eat the corpse paste. So anyway, let's see what we can do. I know there's going to be a point where, since no one can predict what super intelligent artificial general intelligence works, is there will be references made to a crisis 100 or 150 years earlier, where they really had a really close call with the AI, and so really advanced AGI is treated like nuclear weapons. Every combat ship has them, but they live in a box that has to be physically connected to the ship, and it's perfectly akin to releasing nuclear weapons. It's just not done. It's just not done. Everybody's got the weapon. Nobody can use it, because if they do, then it's going to be a bad day. Will there be a failed trans colony? Yes. And there'll be all kinds of things. Okay. Let's get to some questions. Why don't we? Baboom. Site's moving a lot faster now. That's good to know. Phyllis Knudsen 2100 says being a contractor for the Saudi F-15s was crazy money back in the 80s. Yeah, people do things. And that's the thing too. It's like people. Why would somebody live in a? When I was thinking about space flight and long-term space flight and Elon Musk and Mars and all that, what you're really doing is you're saying I'm going to live the rest of my life in a 737. I mean, really, that's what it is. I'm going to live the rest of my life in a 737, and I get to go outside occasionally. Why would you do that? And I think really the reality is I don't think anybody would do it for a lifetime. I think most people would just go out there and do those kind of jobs for the pay for a relatively short period of time, and their goal would be to make enough money to get a nice little place on someplace that didn't suck. And that's what I like to say. I think without question, I mean, there's just no debate about it, in my opinion. There is no debate about it. There has never been a more realistic spaceship crew portrayed than the one that was in Alien. That was absolutely, absolutely perfection. Alien, I remember every one of those characters, and they were, every single one of them was just absolutely, absolutely fantastic. You had such a great mix of characters and such a great diversity of characters. Man, I'll tell you what, Yaphet Kotto in that movie is he's just so good. And if he was just a wise ass, if he was just a loudmouth, wise ass, that'd be one thing. But he's a loudmouth, wise ass grifter who's also a really good engineer. And when they're bringing the Nostromo down onto the planet, and they start having that problem, he's not joking around. Then he's just freaking great. He was great, and Brett knew what he was doing, and Lambert. I think that's one of the most underrated performances in the history of movies. Is Angela Cartwright in Alien. I've never seen anybody look so scared for such a long period of time, and just scared, pissed off. Um, you know, yeah, every one of them is great, and you don't get to see a whole lot of John Hurt's character, but he's like super gung ho kind of guy. I volunteer, and Dallas says, of course you do. Um, it's fantastic, man. It's fantastic. It's a greatest future. So, and let's go to our members. Question curated by Marusha. Thank you very much, Marusha. Let's see, we got a Marusha Dark, we got a Capital G Geek, another Marusha Dark, Ray Juarez, Brandon Higby, Roadrunner, Road Rider, John Schammel, Eric Blake. Okay, I think I can do them all. I don't know if I'll be able to do the duplicates. Let me see how fast I get through them. Script, and then what was the other version one? I wanted ditch. Energy breakthrough, second time asking. I'll see if I can do them both. I'll try. Marusha Dark, topic energy breakthrough, second time asking. Bill, not sure if you saw, but a few things happened recently that could change the energy game forever. First, Cambridge discovered a new type of solar cell made from organic material that has a near perfect efficiency rate converting light to electricity. Our previous best was 20 to 25%. When you say a near perfect rate, are you saying like 80 or 90%? Because that is absolutely revolutionary. No, I don't think we'll be doing any O'Neill colonies, John. I don't know. I mean, there'll be some big space stations, but I don't think the giant, Rama size things. Since I caught that. Secondly, MIT just improved their cement capacitors by a factor of 10, effectively meaning you can store electricity inside a concrete wall. 1 cubic meter of the stuff can power a refrigerator of equivalent size. The average home could be powered on just 45 cubic meters of this stuff. And lastly, lithium deposits worth 1.5 trillion have recently been discovered inside a volcano in Oregon. Hooray, the largest in the entire country. I love it. I don't think I have to tell you how this will affect supply lines and our dependency on lithium from China, especially since they've started weaponizing their near monopoly leverage. That's great news. And great news for our liberal friends, too, as mood stabilizers. Altogether, these three breakthroughs have the potential to massively revolutionize our energy grid. Imagine personal, decentralized, solar-powered homes that are cheaper and more efficient than before, and which can run off energy stored in your basement walls on cloudy days as backup. Imagine skyscrapers, subway tunnels, bridges, and roads all capable of self-powering off this stuff. I think it's great. I still think you're going to need some kind of nuclear for when the loads get big enough, but I'm not complaining. Every little bit helps. Combine this with the Trump allowing AI companies to act as their own utilities, meaning self-powered, then the remaining large-scale plants can be put to other purposes, exported, or even be decommissioned entirely. Any thoughts? Yeah, I would, that's one thought. Slarty Bartfast says it'll take 15 years to get the permits. This is what has to be cut, is this kind of nonsense. There are some really revolutionary fusion ideas. I don't think the answer of fusion are these gigantic, tokamak reactors like the French are building. There's all kinds of problems with those things, and Americans were working on a much smaller, much lighter, like dual helix kind of a thing where they combine they've got the hydrogen in magnetic plasma bottles, and then they combine two different bottles or something like that. It looked really cool. So yeah, I'm feeling good about the future. The single greatest thing we could, I mean, the great great breakthrough would be in batteries. You could probably have if you had the efficiency increases that you're talking about with solar cells, you probably could have a largely solar powered economy if you had a 2 magnitude increase in battery storage. The batteries are the problem. If you could have a 2 or 3 magnitude increase in battery storage, then you could have all electric airplanes. So yeah, and I have no problem with little self-sealed fission nukes. I think those things are awesome. Just little self-contained things the size of a big water heater, and you just plant it in the backyard, and it gets you 25 megawatts for 50 years. Never has to be maintained, or fuel has to be switched out. When it's finally done, you just dig it up, take it out someplace, and bury it. I to the life of me, I do not know what the problem with burying this stuff is. I really don't. Except for the fact that we live in a world of, terrorists. So I suppose they go and dig it up so they can make a weapon out of it. But in the future, we'll have recovered our willpower, and we'll kill all the terrorists, which is the best way to go terrorist-free. Capital G Geek, greetings from the swamps of Northern Virginia. For the colonies, if the planet's orbit is that elliptical, are you having specific functions that can only be done in a specific season? Maybe Earth moving is easier during the hot season when the soil is dry and powdery. Distillation is easier in the heat. Crops can only be grown outside during spring and fall, etc. I was just thinking now that if the whole planet floods essentially during the brief summer, there's going to be a lot of silt deposited, and the landscape will probably change every year, which will be 3 years long or whatever. But we'll see. I had an epiphany listening to Carl Benjamin. The primary malfunction of the left is that they deny that people have agency, except white males who choose to be evil. Criminals aren't responsible for their own actions. Participation trophies, DEIs, it all fits. I'm sure they have a different standard for the more advanced in their cause, but that works well enough to drive envy in their foot soldiers. Yep. If you do another America's Forgotten Heroes, I nominate Royce Williams. He's a Navy fighter pilot with the longest dogfight in history, a 7 versus 1 at that. I believe he's still alive, over 100, and lives in Escondido. The History Guy did a video on it here, and here's a link to Royce Williams. 7 versus 1. Was he I think I saw a quick look of a Panther there, so it looks like he's a Navy fighter. Yeah, well, that's definitely a Panther. Yeah, they're kind of cool looking jets. U.S. longest naval dogfight. Cool. Yeah, USS Forrestal was the first supercarrier, and it was an astonishing improvement over its predecessors. Yeah, I'll check that out when I'm rendering or something. Yeah, thank you very much for that, Capital G Geek. We'll do Marisha again. Topic, colonial script. Brief question about the colonies. I know you've been focusing a lot on the visuals and world building, but do you have any actual scripts completed? I have scenes completed. Seems like you could potentially knock out the pilot episode in a weekend, maybe even an entire season in a month with the help of AI for research purposes and feedback. Same with Big Bad Problems, Tappy 3, etc. For all the time you spent writing for DW, I thought you'd be eager to knock out the part of your passion projects that you can actually finish solo. Yes, and I have been, but I've been doing it on the visual stuff, and I'm doing it on the visual stuff because the visual stuff, the visual capability confines the writing. And I've become convinced now that there is essentially no confinement. The next thing I'm going to do with the AI video is I'm going to do a dramatic scene. I want to do a 2 or 3 minute scene, conversation between Jake and Lisa, with the kids coming in, having a couple lines in an enclosed place. I want to see if I can actually tell a story, and in a scene like that. So there you go. But after that, yeah, it's time to start knocking them out. Let's see. That's one reason why I pivoted from making comics to writing novels, to just focus on the story instead of story and visuals. I think the product turned out infinitely better for it. Also informs what the visual should be. Yeah, that's true. But in this case, the visuals. I need to know what I can do with the visuals. And I'm look. the biggest problem with AI right now, obviously, is its lack of consistency. I love the way those habitats looked in the renders that I've done. And if it's a one-off, like you only visit this place once, it's fine. But what if you have to keep coming back to the same building? How do you? It's very, 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 very difficult. In fact, it's virtually impossible to get it to look the same. So then I'm thinking, do I have to composite CGI onto AI, landscapes with AI people? Possibly. It's going to be tricky for a while, but and it's frustrating. But I do have hope, since everybody knows this is the holy grail. That an AI video is so young. I mean, Pookie Park was only a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. And the first Will Smith eating spaghetti is only two and a half years ago. So I have hopes that these problems will be solved as we continue along the roads here. Worst case, if the scripts are done, at least you can pitch them to a traditional studio to show you're serious and get the ball rolling. That way, if you can't even do the visuals by yourself, in other words, why not bank some major wins for yourself? So in order to do the crowdfunding thing, I need to have 5 little scenes, 4 or 5 minute scenes, one from each of the 5 storylines. And I know what those scenes are going to be. They're largely written, and they're almost storyboarded in my head. So I have to have a 4-minute homestead scene, not just what you saw. I'm going to have lots of extra materials for people who want to check things out. Can't have too much material, but I've got to have a homestead scene, which is going to be when they arrive on the planet and they find out that this rover that they bought is essentially a wreck. I've got the first combat sequence for the Space Navy thing. I've got the first founders meeting pretty much blocked out. I've got the first. I've got the merchant ship coordinating the quantum information holography jump. By the way, I realized that one of the reasons why they have to go from here to there and set up a base at the other end, the Stargate at the other end, is they've got to take actual hydrogen with them, because the hydrogen is oh, come on, entangled. They have to take particles that are from Earth. They have to take the entangled versions with them and put them in certain spaces. And these things have to constantly be refueled by stuff that comes through the gate. They have to take entangled matter in order for this thing to work, which I thought was a nice little twist. So so there's that. And then what was the other timeline? Oh, and I've got the first encounter on the exploration ship with these aliens that live in a very, and I have to really give some thought to this because these are contradictory things. These aliens live in a very low gravity but very high density atmosphere. Maybe I could just go with a high density atmosphere. They're essentially buoyant in the atmosphere. So these things are like, they're something like, just very, very, very approximately something like kelp, just super, super tall and thin and really slow. So there you go. So that's how that's working. I would like to take a little writing vacation, get out, for a week, come back with a bunch of stuff. That'd be nice. Moving on, Ray Juarez. Hi, Bill. Thanks for getting the site working again. Much nicer to use. Thank you. It's getting better all the time. Topic, favorite stories from flying. Just a simple question. What are your favorite moments and stories from when you were flying, or the ones you heard from other pilots? I don't want to spend too much time on that right now, Ray. I'd love to do another Stratosphere Studio or a Stratosphere Lounge just on flying. But I will give you one story that I heard. I didn't see this directly. There's an aviation guy. He's up there in the Burt Rutan category. No one's quite in Burt's category, but he's up there. Make sure I get the right guy here. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I didn't realize he died. I guess he did. I'm virtually certain it was him, and that was Paul McCready. And he was the guy who designed the Gossamer Condor and the Gossamer Albatross, which were the first human-powered aircraft. But and I'm virtually positive it was McCready. The story is true. I can't 100% say it was McCready, but I'm almost positive it was. McCready was a glider pilot, if I recall, if I've got the right guy. And you have thermal lift, which is the sun heats the desert and then kicks off these bubbles of hot air called thermals. And whenever you see a cloudy day, puffy cumulus clouds, those are thermals that are rising, and they suddenly become visible because as they reach as you go higher into the air, the temperature goes down, and the flat bottoms of a cumulus cloud is that temperature gradient where the water condenses, and then when you watch the cloud just billowing out, that's essentially a thermal. And you can take those sometimes up to 30, 40,000 feet. But in order to really get high, you have to have mountain wave, and you got to have really intense winds where if the winds hit a mountain, it has to be a big mountain too, that incoming air will be deflected upwards, and there's a lot of turbulence on the other side of that called the rotor. But if you can get through the rotor and get into the wave, the air is glass smooth, and I've done that. I mean, it's bounced around, just getting our living crap kicked out of us in a glider. Flight instructor and I, and all of a sudden, we went and we just got into smooth air, and the variometer is just pegged. I mean, we're going up at 2,000-3,000 feet per minute. It's like fighter climbing. Anyway, McCready decided he wanted to set the world altitude record in a glider, and in order to do that, he couldn't carry a lot of weight, so he did it without a pressure suit. He had oxygen, obviously, but he was going so high that you couldn't just have like a oxygen cannula. You had to have a seal on your face, and you had to be given pressurized oxygen because the air pressure was so low up there. So McCready goes up to, I think he went to like 100,000 feet or something like that, 80,000 feet in a glider, which is 2 or 3 times higher than a commercial jet. And he was up there, and he was obviously dressed warm, but he was freezing. But the thing he said was, as he got up there, and he was on his way down, he said he felt like maggots were crawling through his skin. That he felt like his entire body on his skin was just crawling with maggots, and he was just freaking out and trying to get back down as fast as he could, which is not so easy in a glider, actually. I mean, you could really point the nose down if you got a lot of lift there. It's not unheard of for a glider pilot to be in lift that's so great that even with the speed brakes all the way out and the nose pointed down, the air is still rising faster than you're descending. It'd take you right up, freeze you to death, and black you out, and that's the end of that. But McCready was just fighting to get back down, and when he got back to the ground, he was wondering what this sensation was, and what it turned out to be was it was all of the capillaries in his body rupturing from lack of pressure. All of his capillaries on the surface of his skin were just bursting because the ambient pressure was so low. This is what would happen to you in space over a good period of time. He was up there for quite a long time, and I remember thinking, man, that's a steely-eyed missile man right there. I know somebody was flying Ridge lift in Hawaii, and I think they set the record for a glider. I think they were up there for like 2.5, 3 days, something like that. So, as long as that wind keeps blowing and you've got something to push it up, you can stay up there all day. I got in Ridge lift, and I took a 2,000-foot tow, got into this Ridge lift, and I was up for 7 hours, and when they called me on the radio to tell me it's time to come home at the end of the day, I was at 14,000 feet. and and I didn't want to come down, but there you go. And we'll talk more about that later, Ray, if you don't mind. Braden Higby, howdy from Idaho. Hello, Braden. I love that place. Thoughts on the hike on the Hasan Piker shock collar controversy? I do. Seems to me like one shouldn't be surprised when someone who consistently calls for violent revolution is also cruel to animals. As a mildly related follow-up, why is it the left can tolerate the streets flowing with the blood of those filthy capitalist pigs, but causing pain to an animal is unforgivable, or is it more about his apparent lies on the matter? I think a lot of it is the cover-up. I think if he just admitted it, it would have been over. But he denied it was a shock collar, and then he said, look, it's just a vibrating one, but then they turned up the contrast, and it turns out he put black duct tape over, he'd cut the electrodes off and put black duct tape on. So now you got the entire internet doing the home sleuth edition, and it couldn't happen to a nicer son of a bitch, frankly. I really I just despise that guy, and I don't listen to him very often. I am very proud of the fact that the intellectual champions of the left are Hasan Piker and Density, and they're two of the worst people, morally worst people that I've ever encountered from a distance. Density and Hasan are just awful people. They do awful things to people, and in the case of Hasan, he's got this dog laying on this mat for 4 or 5 hours for a stream to make him look like a regular guy. Dogs are is it haram in Islam? Harry Sisson, yeah, he's another dweeb. They're just terrible people, and they're and Sisson is just they're just twerps, man. It's the only word for them. They're just twerps, and if they were, philosophers, if their philosophy was a font, they'd be Comic Sans. They're just dumb. They're not dumb. Their language is so violent and so bombastic, and there's no foundation for it. They haven't got any of the intellectual chops. They don't have the education for it. They just plain like to shout. And I saw Hasan on Collargate, and he lives in this incredible, really, really nice house, and as all socialists do, and he's going on jaunts to wherever the hell he's going. The guy lives like a very, very rich capitalist, and he's convinced these suckers that socialism is the answer. And what's especially fun about Hasan, if I ever had a chance to go mano a mano with Hasan, I would say, what's interesting, Hasan, is that what's interesting about Collargate is that it's a perfect metaphor for the government that you believe in. You are promoting a government that forces beings into doing what you want them to by brute force. The idea that your dog could get up and walk away and hurt the state, hurt the image of the state, hurt the image of Big Brother, and so therefore has to be shocked to keep the dog in place because of your narcissistic obsession with your image, is precisely like Stalin or Lenin, electrocuting or executing people who got in the way of their image. Lenin let tens of millions of people die because he refused to take aid from the United States. He was forced to, and then, of course, he stole the wheat and sold it on the market for more communism. But he let people die over his image. Over his image. The fact that is it haram? Is that I always get those two. is it haram the Islamic word for forbidden or off limits or taboo? Halal is the food that's prepared like kosher. In any event, he's his religion says that that dogs are unclean, halal and haram. Yes, thank you, Marusha. So you've got this animal that your religion tells you is unclean, and you're using it to deceive your audience into thinking that you're a swell guy. So you're the poster child for socialism. You lie about your life, you lie to other people to convince them that you're something that you're not. You're much worse than what you want people to believe you are, and you're willing to electrocute and torture these creatures in order to maintain your image. This is socialism in a nutshell. I'm surprised you didn't shoot the dog. I'm surprised you didn't shoot 50 dogs. I'm surprised you didn't keep bringing dogs in and shooting dogs until you finally found a dog that figured out that it better not move, because that's the kind of society that you're advocating. And you're doing all of this, why? So that people will think you're a swell guy? It's not working, man. It's not working. Nobody's buying it. We can tell from your language. We can tell from, I hate everything all the time. This place sucks. America's the worst country in the world because my internet got slow. F off, dude. F off. We don't have time for this kind of infantile argumentation anymore. If you didn't figure out that communism was murder by the 1930s, then you have a serious learning disability, and I can't help you with that. I just can't help you with that. So march on. You live in a free country. You're doing your best to destroy it, but that's okay. This country is much stronger than dweebs and twerks like you, and you are a monument to the hypocrisy and cruelty of the philosophy that you expound, which is why you're attracted to it. That's why you like socialism, because you like electrocuting people and things that don't do what you want them to do. If somebody or something doesn't do what you tell it to do at that moment, you'll just shock the hell out of it. That's what you are, man. You're cruelty in motion, and so is your philosophy. That's why you're attracted to it. Not impressed, dude. Not impressed. Roadrunner. Greetings, friend Bill. First, I'd like to commend the No Kings protesters that demonstrated on Saturday. We currently do not have a king. Donald Trump is still our president. I thought it was great when CNN called the protesters Q-tips because of all of the white hair of the aging hippies. Yeah, I didn't see a black person there either, or a Hispanic person, but you get the idea. A quick question to piggyback on Ray Juarez's question. Did your trip to the Marine Corps Air Station Miramar, as you explained in your Afterburner episode Shooter 1-3, influence your choice of aircraft in DCS? Did you really successfully land your F-18 on a carrier in the simulator? I'm suitably impressed, no joking. I actually did. I'm slowly going through your old Afterburner Firewall episodes, getting ready for your truth bombs that'll hopefully soon start to be released. Any updates on this next story mechanic releases? No. I've still got... Marusha said this, a number of people have said it. I really just need to concentrate on one thing and just get it out the door. But right now, I'm still doing some hustles to keep the lights on. But things are definitely better than they were. This has been the 2025, certainly since April, with the problems with the website, March and April. These have been the hardest 6 months of my adult life in terms of stress. But we're definitely seem to be turning the corner here. So I'm trying to clean up all these things. Website's working for new members now. New signups are perfect. We hired this guy who knows what he's doing. He's cleaning up the rest of the website. We've got some errors that are he's going to be getting on. So yeah, I feel just a little overwhelmed on that. But to answer your question, I did land the F-18 on the deck. I had 2 bolters, and then I caught the third wire. But I did them from 10 miles in trail, and I did a straight-in approach, which is a lot easier. Ever since I started flying DCS, uh, the um, the carrier approach, Cat One carrier approach, uh, is this. You I got the maybe I caught the fourth wire on the third attempt. Yeah, maybe it might have been the fourth wire. In fact, I'm sure it was. But if you what I've been doing consistently now in DCS, and I'd love to try it again in the real simulator, is when you do a Cat 1 approach, you position yourself 5 miles behind the carrier. You're at 800 feet and you're at 350 knots precisely. And you're offset, I don't know, 400 yards to the right of the boat. So you're screaming right past the carrier on the carrier's base recovery course, whatever heading the carrier's on. You fly that heading and you go past, offset to the right of the carrier, 800 feet above the deck, 350 knots, which is real fast. You get a certain distance ahead of the carrier. The further upwind you go, the easier it gets. So generally, you don't want to go too far. And once you're 2, 3, 4 seconds past the carrier, then it's instantly throttle to idle, speed brake on, hard snap bank to the left, and then a 3G pull, which declines to a 2G pull, which declines to a 1.5G pull. You basically do G is equal to 1/10 of your airspeed. So when you first start the brake at 350 knots, it's a 3.5G pull. When you get to 200 knots, it's a 2G pull, and so on. And you have to do this whole turn at 800 feet, which isn't easy to hold that altitude. So you come all the way around, and by the time you're out of the turn, you've bled off enough speed. You put the speed brake back in, flaps go down, gear goes down, hook's already down. And then from the end of the brake turn at 800 feet, you've got, I don't know, 20 seconds to get a beam of the fantail of mother and of mom, and you got to go from 800 feet to 600 feet. When you're abeam the fantail, you start a turn at 600 feet. At the 90, you've got to be between 450 and 500 feet. You got to be 380 feet over the wake, and so the whole landing is a descending turn onto the deck, and that's much harder. But I'm getting pretty good at that. There's a mission in DCS called Bankler's landing thing, and it grades you. A perfect score is a 75. When I started, I was getting 30s and 40s, and I was consistently getting 50s. Now when I sit down to play, if I get anything less than a 60, I do it again, and my highest one was a 73 or a 74. That was a perfect pattern. I was off on one thing, so I got one little strike against me. But I'd love to go in and do the brake turn in the Miramar Sim. That'd be really fun. But I did actually land it when I said I would. But again, it was just a 10-mile straight in, and it's much easier than it is for that continuously descending, continuously decelerating brake turn that you really need to use in a Cat 1 landing. Category 2 and 3 landings, you have to go out to a holding position, and I've done those too. I've held for half an hour at a certain radial, at a certain distance, at a certain altitude, and you got to time that exactly right so that as you're coming out of the turn, you got to hit that initial point within 2 or 3 seconds of your designated time, and you start a steep descent. You got to break through the floor. You got to cut your descent rate and all that stuff. All on instruments. You can't see the carrier. You're in instrument conditions. And I've done that before too, and that is a great feeling. Do a Cat 3 landing on a carrier is a great feeling, but on the low visibility approaches, you have a much longer straight in. No one's going to make you turn that low. Dave Big Booty brings up my favorite line about this. There's a nugget, a new pilot who was trying to qualify for his carrier landings, and he just kept missing and missing, bolter. He did 4 or 5 in a row. I think he had to go up and tank again, and he just couldn't get the thing on the deck. So finally, he gets the jet down, catches a wire. The second you hit the deck, you automatically go to full power, because if you miss the wire and you don't go to full afterburners, then you're going in the water. So the second you hit the deck, you're immediately full power. And this kid was so worked up that he had the jet on the wire, and he's got both afterburners at full power, and he's just so freaked out that he doesn't come off the power. He just burning, 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 burning. And the air boss apparently was feeling sad or sorry for him, so the air boss got on the mic and he said, "Son, you can come off afterburners now. You're not going to make the boat go any faster," which is a great story. Yeah, I love that story. All right, what we got here? I think we got maybe one more, two more. Let's see. We got a Road Rider, and we got three more. Wow, okay. Road Rider, don't get pissy. There's a point here. Bill, to say you're highly functioning but mercurial person is an understatement. Last TSL, you were going to do a back and forth video. You broke the news to us in that TSL. Before it was Truth Bombs. Before that, Story Mechanics. Before that, The Colonies. Before that, Major Mismanagement. Before that, Things to Come. Before that, Ephemera. Before that, Sense of Pattern here. Sprinkled among the Avengers were some extremely amazing, powerful what we saws that you should be immensely proud of. Speaking of myself only, I'd be happy with my membership contribution to be stuck with just one project along with Backstage and Right Angle. The question, if you could toss all your ideas and distractions and keep just one, would it be The Colonies, and why? Yes, it'd be The Colonies because that's what I've always wanted to do with my life. This technology came along late. There's no question it's distracted me. And I'm 66 years old. I'm going to be 67 in April. I've been wanting to do a version of this story on and off since I was 16. I've never had the tools to do it, and suddenly I do. And so it's very hard for me to not work on that. But your point is really well taken. That's just, yeah, it's not. I try to find things that excite me as much as this other stuff does. And I had The Colonies on back burner for a couple years. But you're absolutely right. I don't know what I don't know what to do about it other than to get a staff, hit with something and get a staff, because there's no way that I can do all of these things if I'm editing and doing all the things needed to crank the thing over, spend more time on fixing the website than most people do on their regular jobs, although this hiring of this new guy has been a real game changer. But I got nothing to say about it, man. You're 100% correct, and no excuse, sir. I don't know what to say. And Merch says maybe take a week off and just write all the colony stuff, get it off your plate. The bottom line, to be honest with you, is just taking a week off would help, because I am so I've been chopping so long and not sharpening the axe. I haven't had any time off, and I'm just getting less and less efficient every week because the hamster wheel has to turn, and that's it. I think if I were to take a week or 2 weeks off, I'd come back a different person, but I really can't do that. So kind of stuck on this treadmill right now. So yeah, it's got me genuinely worried, practically terrified. But I do find that the reality is there is that the things that I really, really want to do, I do, and I really, really want to do this more than anything, and I've always wanted to do this more than anything. I got started with Declaration Entertainment with Jeremy Boring in 2010 so I could make The Colonies. And he spun that off into Daily Wire, and that's back when to do the demo reel that I played, the reel I played earlier tonight. I've given that some thought. I don't see any way to make the 6-minute demo that I showed earlier tonight for less than $10 or $20 million. um, and it took 2.5, 3 days, and I don't know, a couple $100, something like that. John Shamel. This should perhaps be a Thursday question. I've been finding myself wondering a lot if Europe can be saved. It's not just England, but the big three all have seemingly surrendered to mass importation of those who are absolutely dedicated to the cultural destruction of the West. My question is, what happens to NATO when the European military inevitably succumbs to the pressure from their new importees? It's particularly worrisome that it means the imports will gain access to the stuff the military machine won't even admit they have yet. Yeah, if Islamicists take over European militaries, they won't use them because they can't use them. If you've seen the crash of a C-130 in Afghanistan, one of the C-130s that we left there with the Afghanistan withdrawal, some jihadis decided they're gonna, fly a transport plane, but they can't fly. They can't fly because their culture is incapable of doing things like that. They have no zero trust culture, zero respect for learning. They have no desire to fly. They just see a need to fly that transport, and among other things. So they'll never get it. But that doesn't mean they won't destroy it. I think Europe has got 3 to 5 years, and I'm starting to see some signs of the men stepping up in Britain, especially Ireland, more than anywhere Ireland. I see a little bit of it in Germany. I see Italy is impressing me, actually, but France, I don't see any resistance in France. None, zero, which probably shouldn't shock me. But I have yet to see a Frenchman stand up for France in a video anywhere. And so I think the best case scenario now is that France shows the rest of the world what's exactly happening. Whether the Brits turn it around, I don't know. I know this guy Starmer is rooting for the Islamicists. Charles is not helping. I think the best hope for England is William, and I have no idea if William's got the guts for it. But I know Charles doesn't, and I kind of think that that he is really the last hope of it. So we'll see. Eric Blake. Side note before the question, Bill, I'm forced to concur a bit with Road Rider. When you talked last stream about the alternative Starfleet Academy series, you're absolutely positively going to do it in time to be relevant in any way. My thought was, yeah, I suppose we can say goodbye to everything, expecting truth bombs at any time soon, let alone the colony story mechanics, Major Mace Mattingly. We can only have so many pans on the stove, Bill, lest none of them actually get cooking. Anyway, speaking of Star Trek. Tonight, the case of the Wales probe brethren. Bill, if you remember the massive cylindrical whale probe from Star Trek IV, The Voyage Home, recently Glenn Beck interviewed Dr. Avi Loeb about the mysterious, massive, and surprisingly fast, accelerating when it shouldn't, 3I Atlas that's coming our way, and darned if everything about it, elongated shape, etc., didn't immediately remind me of that probe. Not that we've heard any screeching whale calls or seen any blue orb attached to the end of it yet. Anyway, have you been following the story of it at all? What do you make of it? Should we hire Shamu to try and make contact? Here's the interview and so on. 3I Atlas is an interstellar object that is not changing course. It's at least not in a way that is unexplainable by outgassing and things of that nature. 3I Atlas is unusually shaped, but then again, so was Wanamea or whatever the damn thing was called. I guess it's just the nature of of people and news and so on. Whenever there's something new, there's hundreds of thousands, if not, I want to, whatever it is, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of asteroids out there. They're not exciting anymore. Comets are, we've had comets, people have been aware of comets since we've been looking at the skies. Here's something that we know is coming from interstellar space, so it's got to be an alien ship, and it's just like, I'm just so tired of it. Again, it's like the evidence is so flimsy, and people build these giant castles out of evidence, so, well, essentially no evidence. I meant to say, by the way, about the European thing, I think the Poles, once again, because I see Pat Karen here, I think Poland is once again going to be the bulwark of defense against the Islamization of Europe, except this time the threat is coming from the west of Poland and not to the east of Poland. Poland, Hungary, Czech Republic, they seem like they still don't have the death wish that the British leadership and the European Union. This whole thing is due to the EU. It's the EU, the internationalist elitists who are bored with life, they're suicidal, and they want to take their countries with them. If you got to ditch the EU. You got to get everybody out of the EU. And Italy's talking about leaving. That would be awesome. Anyway, back to 3i Atlas. It's not a day goes by when I don't see something on X where 3i Atlas is now doing this or doing that, or it's like, I don't know, man. The bar is so low for belief in these things. I suspect that's part of the belonging thing too. It's partially lack of education and partially people just want to believe it. There's a world beyond our world. And that's not it's not hard to understand. When photography started to become prevalent, there was a temporary sense of madness. It was like a fad, like a bubble, where somebody had done trick photography, and they put out a picture book of little fairies. And floating over, a little girl would be looking down at a flower, and there'd be like a little fairy there, and it was just simple trick photography. It was just double exposures, but no one had ever seen this before because photography was so new, and so many people thought, my God, here's conclusive evidence that these things existed. Can't really blame those people, but there it is. Yeah, a couple of people have asked if I've seen the, that's the end of the questions, if I've seen the trailer for Pendragon Cycle. I have seen it. I don't, in the trailer, I didn't get the hook. I think my main problem with what I've seen of Pendragon is that everybody looks like everybody else. The thing about Lord of the Rings, you're obviously working with incredible material. I haven't read the Pendragon Cycle. I'm sure that the material is incredible. It certainly affected Jeremy. But the one thing that that Lord of the Rings did so beautifully well, just so perfectly well, and put so much effort into, was making every one of the cultures look and feel different, and the music made them sound different, and Tolkien had languages for each one of them, and the Elfish language sounds like what elves would say, and the Dwarven language sounds like what, and so do their characters and their runes, and the way they decorate their armor, and the Rohirrim, and that green and gold, and the horse motif on everything, and you could look at any frame in all three Lord of the Rings movies, and you would instantly know where you were where you were and who you were looking at. And I saw the stuff from Pendragon, and I didn't get that sense of realism that I got from Lord of the Rings. It just looked a little generic to me. Jeremy hired Spencer Clavin to craft an Atlantean language for the show. Okay, well, to be honest with you, when I saw the trailer, I didn't really know what it was about. I remember lots of people fighting, but I don't remember a story arc in the trailer. I don't remember what. I don't remember what the first episode was about. So, needless to say, I want the best for it, and I certainly hope he gets it. But I don't know. I would have told more of a story. I need to see it again. I watched it in passing. I mean, I gave it my full attention, but I don't know. I don't know how other people feel about it. I didn't get a. I know that Jeremy said that this book changed his life and made him want to get into movie making, but whatever that was, I didn't get that sense in the trailer. And I have some very close friends who worked on a lot of that, like really close friends, including Jeremy. So, see, I believe that that the most important thing that they did in Lord of the Rings was the casting. No two of those faces look the same. Everybody in that movie is such a distinctive looking character, and this is what they did on the first Star Trek episode. This is why I cannot stand. I thought Zachary Quinto was an okay Spock, because he looks weird. But this guy they have on Strange New Worlds, I keep saying he just looks like a barista to me. He looks like a nerd. He just looks like a high school nerd. Leonard Nimoy had an extremely, extremely unusual and exotic face. He looked like an alien without the makeup on, and it just worked. And these guys, I swear, I haven't seen a single episode. I haven't seen even clips from Strange New Worlds. These two helmsmen and navigators look like twins to me. I can't tell them apart. They just look like short-haired, kind of butch, kind of bipeds. I don't see it, man. I really think that if you're gonna cast, especially if you're gonna cast something that's either science fiction or medieval, you want faces with character. You want faces with character. I'm trying to think of actors that have faces that have like lots and lots of just character. Harrison Ford has got a character-driven face. Brad Pitt is an extremely handsome guy, but Brad Pitt has a charisma to kind of break through that. I'd be casting people like Steve Buscemi and William Macy has got a real distinct look. What is his name? I always have a hard time remembering his name. Is it Hugo Weaving? Is a very unusual looking guy, and he looks like an elf. And everything he's in, he just looks interesting. He's an interesting looking guy. Willem Dafoe is a really great face. That's the, obviously not going to get those people, but those are the kind of people I would look at. Ed Harris, great example. Great example. Ed Harris has a real distinctive face. I'm sorry, Dennis Quaid has a real distinctive face. Kurt Russell has a distinctive face. But a lot of the people in these kind of mass-produced movies, they're just kind of something like kind of handsome in sort of a nondescript way. I'll tell you who doesn't have a character-driven face, and I'll never understand this guy, how he got a career. I don't even remember his name. That's how vanilla he is. Who's the guy who plays the lead in the Avatar movies? I've never understood him. I've never ever gotten anything out of that guy other than just plain Worthington. Is it Sam Worthington? Yeah. He just is just completely forgettable to me. Yeah, just completely forgettable to me. I don't get Sam Worthington. Anyway, that's that. So, okay, well, that'll do it for this edition of the show. Made possible by the members here at BillWhittle.com, as you know. So we're very grateful for all of you being here, and I guess we'll see you guys on Thursday for the Stratosphere Lounge.